The steam from the shower still clung to my skin like a lover's regret when Jordan's hands first touched my shoulders. "Relax, Alex," he murmured, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through the towel draped across my hips, but I swear I heard the crack in it, the kind that comes before everything shatters. In that instant, as his fingers dug deeper, pulling the fabric away with a deliberate slowness that left me exposed and frozen, I realized this wasn't just a massage. It was the beginning of the end, and God help me. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't stop the flood of want crashing over the walls I'd built around my heart. New York City had always been my battlefield, a concrete jungle where dreams came to die or get reborn in the flicker of neon signs. I'd moved here 5 years ago from a sleepy suburb in Ohio, chasing the ghost of a life that felt bigger than the one my parents had mapped out for me. Church on Sundays, a desk job at the local bank, and a wife I'd pretend to love while lying awake at night wondering why my body betrayed me with thoughts of the quarterback from high school. Alexander Hayes, that's me. 28, gay as a rainbow in June, and perpetually one bad decision away from a therapy bill I couldn't afford. My days blurred into nights at a midtown ad agency, crafting slogans for energy drinks that promised to unleash your inner beast, while I nursed black coffee and crushes on straight colleagues who never noticed the way my gaze lingered. It was one of those bone-deep exhausted Fridays when I stumbled into Sanctuary Spa, a hole-in-the-wall spot in Chelsea squeezed between a falafel joint and a vintage bookstore. The sign outside was faded, promising blissful escape for the weary soul. And after a week of pitching campaigns to execs who treated me like the intern, I needed escape more than air. The receptionist, a drag queen named Luna with lashes longer than my patience, sized me up and smirked. "First time, honey? Go for the deep tissue with Jordan. He'll unravel you like a cheap sweater." I laughed it off, signed the waiver, and stripped down in the changing room, wrapping the thin white towel around my waist like armor. The room they led me to was dimly lit, all earth tones and the faint scent of eucalyptus, with a massage table that looked like it had seen better days. I lay face down, the paper liner crinkling under me, and closed my eyes, willing the tension in my neck to melt away. That's when the door clicked open, and I felt the shift in the air, like the room suddenly held its breath. "Alexander, right? I'm Jordan." His voice was smooth, laced with that effortless confidence only Californians seem to pull off without trying. I peeked over my shoulder and nearly choked. He was tall, maybe 6 feet 2 inches, with sun-kissed skin that spoke of beaches I'd only seen in magazines, and arms corded with muscle from what I guessed were endless surf sessions. His hair was a messy crop of blonde waves, and his eyes, God, those piercing blue eyes, held a spark of mischief that made my stomach flip. He wore a simple black tank top and shorts, professional but hugging his frame in ways that were anything but. "Yeah, Alex is fine," I mumbled, burying my face in the headrest, heat creeping up my neck that had nothing to do with the room's warmth. He chuckled, a sound like gravel wrapped in velvet, and warmed oil between his palms. The first press of his hands on my back was electric, firm, knowing, like he'd mapped every knot before I even arrived. "You've been carrying the world up here," he said, thumbs circling my shoulder blades. "Let me take some of that weight." We didn't talk much at first, just the rhythm of his breath syncing with mine, the slick slide of oil over skin, and the occasional groan escaping my lips that I prayed he didn't notice. But New York has a way of pulling stories out of strangers, and soon enough I was spilling about the promotion I almost got, the ex who ghosted me after I came out to my folks, the way the city chewed you up and spat you out if you let it. Jordan listened, his hands never faltering, moving lower, tracing the curve of my spine with a reverence that felt dangerously intimate. "You're stronger than you think, Alex," he said softly, his fingers grazing the dimples at the base of my back. "Guys like you build walls so high, but underneath, it's fire." I swallowed hard, my pulse thundering in my ears. Was he flirting, or was that just the spa's ambience playing tricks? By the time he tapped my hip, "Flip for me," I was a mess of half-formed fantasies, the towel suddenly feeling like the thinnest barrier in the world. Face up now, the ceiling lights blurred into halos as he worked my chest. His touch lighter here, almost teasing. Our eyes met, and there it was again. That crack in his voice from earlier, hidden behind a smile that didn't quite reach those blues. "Tell me something real," he urged, his palm flat over my sternum. Feeling the erratic beat beneath, I hesitated, then whispered, "I haven't let anyone touch me like this in years. Feels like surrender." He paused, oil-slicked hands hovering, and for a split second, the room felt too small, the air too thick. Then, with a gentleness that belied the storm in his gaze, he tugged at the towel's edge. It slipped down, inch by agonizing inch, exposing me to the cool air and his unflinching stare. I froze, muscles locked, breath caught in my throat. Like a deer in headlights, but this wasn't fear. It was a magnetic pull, raw and undeniable. "Jordan." My voice was a rasp, a plea or a warning. I couldn't tell which. "Sho," he breathed, leaning closer, his face inches from mine, the scent of his cologne. Cedar and sea salt, mingling with the eucalyptus. "I've got you. Just let go." His hands resumed, bolder now, tracing paths that ignited every nerve, turning the massage into something sacred and profane all at once. I couldn't move, not because I was paralyzed, but because moving would mean breaking the spell. Admitting this was more than fantasy. In that suspended moment, with the city humming outside and my world narrowing to the heat of his touch, I fell hard, reckless, into the blue of his eyes. But as his lips brushed my collarbone, a feather-light promise, I caught it. The glint of a wedding band on his left hand, half hidden under the oil, winking like a warning shot. My heart stuttered. Who was he, really? And what the hell had I just invited into my life? The afterglow lingered like a hangover you didn't regret, until the regret hit. Jordan draped the towel back over me with a tenderness that felt almost apologetic, his fingers lingering on my thigh as he straightened up. "That was intense," he said, wiping his hands on a fresh cloth, avoiding my eyes for the first time. Intense? Understatement of the century. My body hummed with aftershocks, every inch of skin branded by his touch, but my mind was already racing ahead, piecing together the puzzle of that ring. Was it a prop? A forgotten habit from a life he left behind? Or the anchor dragging us both under? I sat up slowly, legs dangling off the table, the towel clutched like a lifeline. "Yeah, intense." My voice came out steadier than I felt, but inside, the questions swirled like the steam we'd stirred up. He busied himself with the oil bottles, capping them with precise clicks, the silence stretching taut between us. Finally, I couldn't take it. The ring, ex-husband? Or? His laugh was sharp, brittle, like glass underfoot. He glanced down at his hand, twisting the band as if it burned. "Old habit. Divorced 2 years ago. But it sticks, you know? Like the ink on your skin." He nodded at the small tattoo on my ribs. A faded compass rose I'd gotten on a whim in college, pointing nowhere but up. It was my quiet rebellion, a map to a self I'd only just started to claim. "Fair enough," I replied, though doubt gnawed at me. Lies have a texture, and his had the slipperiness of half-truths. But damn if I didn't want to believe him. Jordan was the kind of beautiful that hurt, effortless, lived in, with laugh lines etching his eyes that spoke of sunsets in Malibu and heartbreaks under palm trees. He'd moved to New York 6 months back, he said, chasing a fresh start after the divorce gutted him. LA's all glamour and ghosts, he'd confessed earlier, his hands on my calves, kneading out the tension. Here, it's real, raw. Like you. We dressed in awkward tandem, stealing glances that sparked like live wires. At the front desk, Luna raised an eyebrow as Jordan comped my session, first one's on me, and slipped me his number scrawled on a receipt. "Call me. Dinner? Non-spa edition." His grin was boyish, disarming, and before I could overthink it, I nodded. "You're on." That night, my one-bedroom in Astoria felt smaller than usual, the walls closing in with the ghosts of bad dates past. I paced the creaky hardwood, phone in hand, replaying the slide of that towel, the heat of his breath. What was I doing? Alexander Hayes didn't do impulsive. I was the guy who color-coded his Netflix queue and ghosted anyone who texted after 10 p.m. But Jordan, he was a plot twist, a rom-com lead crashing into my indie drama. I texted him at midnight, "Dinner sounds dangerous." When? His reply buzzed back instantly, "Tomorrow. 8. I'll pick the spot. Wear something that shows off those shoulders." Heat flooded my cheeks, and I tossed the phone like it scorched, collapsing onto my bed with a groan. Dangerous was right. Saturday dawned gray and drizzly, the kind of New York autumn that seeped into your bones. I spent the morning at the gym, pounding the treadmill to shake off the nerves, then rifled through my closet for shoulder-appropriate attire. A fitted navy button-down that hugged my frame without screaming try hard. By 7:45, I was at the corner of 8th and 42nd, heart hammering as a black Uber pulled up and Jordan unfolded from the back seat, looking like he'd stepped off a surfboard ad in slim jeans and a leather jacket that smelled like adventure. "You clean up nice," he said, pulling me into a hug that pressed us chest to chest, his stubble grazing my jaw. No ring tonight, or if there was, it was tucked away. We slid into a booth at this dimly lit Italian joint in the village, all exposed brick and candlelight, where the waiter called us gentlemen with a wink that said he knew the score. Over plates of carbonara that tangled on our forks like our conversation, we dove deeper. Jordan talked about his ex, a high-powered agent named Tyler who'd traded their beach house for a penthouse and a younger model. He said I was too free-spirited. Like that's a sin. His eyes darkened, fork pausing mid-air. "What about you, Alex? What's your ghost?" I hesitated, swirling Chianti in my glass. "Family, mostly. Dad's a pastor, old-school Baptist. Mom's the peacemaker. Coming out was like dropping a bomb at Thanksgiving. They love me, sure, but it's that conditional shit. Pray on it, son. It'll pass." I forced a laugh, but it came out hollow. Jordan reached across, his hand covering mine, thumb stroking my knuckles. "Fuck that. You're not a phase. You're a goddamn revelation." The air crackled, charged with the unspoken. After dinner, we wandered the wet streets, shoulders brushing under his umbrella, until we ended up at his place. A loft in Soho that screamed trust fund escape, all high ceilings and skyline views. "Just for a nightcap," he promised, pouring whiskey neat as indie folk crooned from hidden speakers. We sank onto the couch, legs tangled, and talked until the words ran dry, replaced by the slow burn of kisses that tasted like salt and second chances. His hands remembered the map of my body from the spa, unbuttoning with the same deliberate care. But this time there was no towel to hide behind. We moved to his bed, a tangle of limbs and whispers, where he murmured my name like a prayer. "Alex, God, Alex." And I let myself believe it was real. For those stolen hours, the city faded, leaving only us. Two broken boys chasing dawn in the dark. But as sunlight sliced through the blinds, I woke to an empty bed and the faint clink of keys in the kitchen. Jordan was there, shirtless, brewing coffee, but his phone lit up on the counter. A text preview flashing. "Miss you, babe. When are you coming home?" My stomach dropped. Tyler, the ex who wasn't so ex after all. The coffee burned my tongue, but it was nothing compared to the acid churning in my gut. I stood in Jordan's kitchen, mug in hand, staring at that damning notification like it was a loaded gun. He turned from the counter, two steaming cups balanced, his smile faltering when he saw my face. "Hey, morning glory. Sleep okay?" He set the mug down, stepping close, but I held up a hand, the universal stop sign. "Who's tea?" The words hung heavy, accusatory, slicing through the domestic haze. His eyes flicked to the phone, then back to me, a mask slipping into place. Polite confusion laced with defensiveness. "What? Oh, that's spam. Some telemarketer bullshit." He snatched the device, thumbing it dark with a casual flick that screamed rehearsal. I laughed, bitter and sharp, the sound echoing off the exposed brick. "Spam? From someone who misses you and calls you babe? Come on, Jordan. I'm not the idiot in this rom-com." My voice cracked on the last word, betraying the hurt blooming hot behind my ribs. Last night replayed in flashes. His weight pinning me down, the way he'd gasped my name like it was salvation, the promises woven into every touch. And now this, it felt like waking from a fever dream to find the sheets soaked in lies. He sighed, running a hand through his hair, that blonde mess falling back into place like nothing had changed. "Alex, listen. It's not what you think. Tyler and we're complicated. He's going through shit, reaching out because he knows I'm soft. But last night, that was real. You were real." He closed the distance, hands on my arms, squeezing like he could anchor me there. His touch still ignited sparks, traitorous body that it was, but I shrugged him off, stepping back until the island counter bit into my hip. "Complicated how? Married complicated? Side piece complicated? The questions tumbled out, laced with venom I didn't know I had. Growing up in that Ohio pressure cooker, I'd learned to spot deception early. Dad's overtime at the office, Mom's forced smiles over dinner. I'd sworn I'd never be the fool chasing shadows. Yet here I was, naked in every way that mattered. Jordan's face crumpled, the bravado cracking to reveal the man beneath. Vulnerable, cornered. Okay, fine. We're separated. Not divorced. Not yet. He wants to work it out, therapy and all that Hallmark crap. But I left because it was killing me, Alex. Suffocating. With you, it's like breathing for the first time. He reached again, this time cupping my face, thumbs brushing my cheeks. Tears pricked my eyes. Damn him for knowing exactly where to strike. Give me a chance to end it clean. Please. The plea hung there, a lifeline or a noose. I couldn't decide. Part of me, the reckless, lovesick part, wanted to grab it, to dive back into the illusion. But the rest, the Alexander who'd clawed his way out of the closet and into this unforgiving city? He whispered retreat. I pulled away, grabbing my jacket from the couch. I can't be your escape hatch, Jordan. Not when you're still tethered to him. At the door, I paused, the knob cold under my palm. Text me when it's over, if it's ever over. The slam echoed in my chest as I hit the street. Rain-slicked sidewalks mirroring the blur in my vision. Soho blurred into a watercolor of umbrellas and honking taxis, and I walked, blocks turning into miles, until my legs burned and the hurt dulled to a throb. Back in Astoria, I collapsed onto my bed, the sheets still smelling faintly of his cologne, and let the sobs come. Not just for him, but for every time I'd settled for scraps, convinced I didn't deserve the feast. Days bled into a week of radio silence, broken only by work emails and Luna's texts. Spill, bitch, that hunk ghost you already? I threw myself into pitches, staying late to tweak taglines until my eyes crossed, but Jordan haunted the edges. His laugh in a client's voice, the curve of his hands in every coffee cup. Then, on Thursday, my phone buzzed. Can we talk? Coffee. Neutral ground. Jay. Against every screaming instinct, I said yes. We met at a dingy spot in Midtown, all Formica counters and burnt roast, where anonymity was the best camouflage. He looked wrecked, dark circles under those blues, stubble shadowing his jaw like regret. I told him, he said without preamble, sliding a latte my way. Everything. About us. About how you make me feel alive. Not just existing. His hand trembled on the table, inches from mine. He didn't take it well, screaming threats to out me to my family back in Cali. But I stood my ground. For the first time. Relief warred with suspicion, a toxic cocktail. And? What's next? I leaned in, searching his face for the lie, but all I saw was raw edges. Truth carved deep. Divorce papers filed yesterday. This messy, lawyers and assets, but I'm free. Or as free as this shit gets. He covered my hand then, warm and steady. I don't expect you to wait, Alex. But if you'll let me, I'll spend every day proving I'm worth the risk. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I watched the rain streak the window, people hustling past like ants in the storm. New York had taught me resilience, the art of rising from rubble. But trust? That was a luxury I'd rationed tight. Yet as his thumb traced circles on my skin, echoing that first massage, I felt the walls tremble. One step at a time, I said finally, squeezing back. No more secrets. We left together, arms brushing under the awning, and for a moment it felt like possibility. Dates followed, lazy Sundays at the High Line, where he'd steal kisses amid the wildflowers. Late-night confessions over takeout, unraveling the scars we'd both hidden. Jordan opened up about the pressure of his perfect life, the surf sponsorships masking the panic attacks, the marriage that started as passion and soured to routine. I shared my fears. The ache of unrequited family love, the terror of loving too fiercely only to lose it all. It built slow, this thing between us. Kisses turning to nights tangled in my narrower bed, his head on my chest as we whispered futures that didn't scare us. Move in? He asked one crisp November morning, sunlight gilding his lashes as he traced my tattoo. I hesitated, the compass rose itching under his finger like a warning. But hope is a stubborn bastard, and I said yes. Then came the call that shattered it all. Tyler, drunk and desperate, at 2 a.m. You think you can steal him? He's mine, you homewrecker. The line went dead, but the venom lingered. Jordan's phone exploded after. Voicemails laced with pleas and rage. Texts outing our nights to mutual friends. By dawn, the betrayal metastasized. A leaked photo from some LA party. Jordan's arm around Tyler. Timestamped last month. Business, he swore when I confronted him, face ashen. Just business. But the doubt festered. A poison I couldn't purge. The photo hit like a sucker punch. Grainy but unmistakable. Jordan's lips brushing Tyler's temple in a pose too intimate for business. I found it buried in a gossip thread on some queer forum. Anonymous tip. Surf stud playing both coasts? Watch your backs, boys. My hands shook as I scrolled. Comments piling on like vultures. Knew he was shady. Poor fool on the east. That fool was me, staring at my reflection in the laptop screen. Eyes hollowed by another sleepless night. I confronted him that evening in my apartment. The air thick with takeout remnants and unspoken accusations. Explain this, I demanded, thrusting the phone at him. He scanned it, color draining from his face, then sank onto the couch like a man deflated. Alex, shit, it's not. Okay, it is what it looks like, but... He buried his head in his hands, voice muffled. Tyler cornered me at that event. Drunk, crying, begging for one last night. I said no, but he kissed me. Snuck the pic too. I don't know, hurt me back. The words landed like blows, each one chipping at the fragile trust we'd rebuilt. One last night? While you're telling me you're done. While you're moving in. My voice rose, cracking on the edges. Years of buried rage surfacing. I'd given him everything. The key to my door, pieces of my heart I'd hoarded like treasures. And this was the knife twist. Jordan surged up, grabbing my shoulders. I pushed him away, swear on my life. But yeah, I should have told you. I was ashamed, terrified you'd walk. And now, fuck, Alex, I'm losing you anyway. Tears tracked down his cheeks, mirroring mine, but anger burned hotter than pity. I shoved him back, the space between us a chasm widening by the second. You don't get it, do you? This isn't just a slip. It's a pattern. The ring, the texts, the complicated bullshit. I'm done being your safety net. He crumpled then, sliding to the floor, back against the couch as sobs racked him. Please, I love you. Not him, not the life we had, you. You're the one who sees me, the mess under the tan. Don't make me go back to that emptiness. His words clawed at me, raw and pleading, stirring the empathy I'd always worn like a curse. But love isn't blind. It's the cruelest optometrist, forcing you to see the fractures. I knelt beside him, not touching, just close enough to feel the heat of his grief. Love's not enough if it's built on sand. You have to choose yourself first, Jordan. Fix your shit. For you, not me. He nodded through the tears, clutching my hand like a drowning man. And in that moment, I saw the boy he'd been. Scared, searching, just like me. We didn't break that night. Instead, we held vigil on the floor, trading truths until dawn painted the walls gold. He promised therapy, no contact with Tyler, full transparency. I promised space to heal, to trust again. He moved out the next week, back to his loft, but we talked daily, halting calls that stitched us tentative. Holidays loomed. Thanksgiving a minefield of family calls I dodged with Jordan's voicemails instead. Soft apologies that chipped at my resolve. Winter gripped the city in ice, mirroring the frost in my chest, but spring thawed something vital. One April evening, as cherry blossoms dusted Washington Square Park, he showed up at my door with a bottle of that Chianti and eyes clear of shadows. 6 months clean, he said, holding up his bare left hand. No ring, no Tyler, just me owning my fuck-ups. And you, if you'll have me, not as escape but as partner. I searched his face, that familiar mischief tempered by hard-won peace, and found no lies lurking. Partners, I echoed, pulling him inside. We didn't rush. Dinners turned to dates, touches tentative until they weren't. By summer, he was back, boxes unpacked with laughter instead of lies. Our bed a sanctuary rebuilt stronger. It wasn't perfect. Fights flared over old wounds, Nights when doubt whispered loudest, but we faced them head-on. Couples counseling in a walk-up office, where a no-nonsense therapist with a Brooklyn accent called us on our crap. Jordan's family came around slow. His sister's visit a tentative bridge, his parents' card a quiet olive branch. Mine? Still a work in progress, but Mom's email, "Proud of you, son. Loves love," was a crack in the wall. 1 year to the day from that massage, we stood on a rooftop in Brooklyn, city lights sprawling like a forgiven past. He dropped to one knee, not with a ring but a key, simple silver, etched with a compass rose. "To our home," he said, voice steady. "Wherever that takes us." Tears blurred the skyline as I pulled him up, kissing him fierce under the stars. It wasn't a fairy tale end. It was human, flawed, fierce, profoundly ours. In the end, love isn't the absence of betrayal. It's the choice to rise from it, hands intertwined, facing the unknown. And in New York's relentless pulse, we'd found our rhythm. Not perfect, but real. As real as the boy who'd frozen under a falling towel, only to thaw into a man who finally knew his worth.